Welcome to the show, guys.
Nice to be here, man. Yeah, everyone just calls me Wax. So I'm a lifelong United fan over 30 years. Yeah, here to chat about United.
Big fixture coming up, which is probably going to shape the top four race today. United versus West Ham. What's your opinions of the game, and how important is it to our season?
Yeah, so it's a really important fixture, especially off the back of that slightly disappointing end to the Milan game. I know Leicester are winning today as well. I think they're 5 up at the moment against Sheffield United, so pressure's really on us. Helps that Chelsea drew, gives us a little bit of breathing space, but it's still a game we definitely want to win. We've got a bit of a patchy record against West Ham. In the last 6 fixtures, we've won 3, lost 2, and drawn 1. But even in the ones that we've won, they've been very close games. So, and we can go into a bit more detail, perhaps about the last game. And I won that game 3-1, but it was a very close game. West Ham could have scored a couple more. We struggled for a
Yeah,
while, came
I
back.
I, I remember that night quite clearly. Suchek missed a chance on the back post just before we broke for half time, and there was a couple of opportunities as well for West Ham, but they were missing some key players last time out, and I think United got the better end of the stick. We got the better end of the result there. We were slightly just a little bit more clinical up front. But it was certainly a really close tie. Um, and I would expect that again tonight from West Ham. Just them to be really dogged and rugged and fight for the 3 points because they're so close to the top four now. And with Tottenham breathing down their necks, they'll want to create a bit of a cushion. And tonight would probably be the perfect chance for them to close that gap and try and get European football. But I think from United tonight we've got to be clinical and we've got to be we've got to take our chances because there's not going to be many of them. So we've got to be clinical up front. And big news coming out of the squad as well. Apparently, Rashford's going to start. We knew he was injured, so it's quite a shock that he's come back so quick. What do you think about Rashford's shock inclusion?
Well, I guess it's kind of surprising, but not surprising at the same time. As I said, it's an important game. I think Ollie knows that coming off the back of that Milan game, and yeah, if Rashford was anywhere near fit, he was always likely to start, especially because we looked quite toothless against Milan. It's a bit of a worry because if remember last season we played Rashford when he was sort of going in and out of patches of fitness. He picked up that back injury, I think against Wolves. Never looked the same after. He sort of not he started the season this season well, but he's sort of picked up knocks and his form's been up and down. So I mean,
Yeah.
hopefully the gamble pays off. We won't want him to pick up another injury or something, more long term. So
Oh yeah.
hopefully he can get
Absolutely.
yeah. So hopefully he can
Yeah.
get through the game, maybe score a goal or two. I mean, I remember in the last game, the right winger, Jared Bowen. I think we had Williams at left back. He caused him all sorts of problems. I feel a bit more confident if we've got Shaw in there.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I know Shaw came on to uh, um, assure our win in the Milan game right at the end, but it turned out more fruitless than it did positive because the way we just kind of defended, we've started parking the bus and we were really vulnerable in that last 10-15 minutes. And had Milan had not had that many injuries to their squad, they could have capitalized on that result. So we are very lucky to come out of it with a 1-1 draw. Of course, Milan getting the away goal. So we need to make sure we do everything in our power the next time out to make sure we get the goal first, an away goal, and then Milan are inevitably chasing the game. With the amounts of injuries that Milan have got, chasing the game is going to be in our favour if we score first. So Ollie's certainly got a lot to think about as well. And Diallo's performance, uh, has prompted him another start today as well. Looks like he's going to be playing alongside Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood up front.
I think right now is the situation we're in with the injuries, Cavani, Marshall injured and off form. I'm not sure why he's dropped James. Maybe a sign that James is gonna play in the Milan game. But yeah, I mean it's just a matter of circumstance at the moment. Obviously, Giallo came on, looked quite good. Got a beautiful goal with that sort of back header, sort of Chicharito-esque. But yeah, I mean it's a different proposition when you're coming up against a physical Premier League team like West Ham, who are playing well. So yeah, hopefully the lad can impose himself, have a positive impact on the game. Obviously, Greenwood's still relatively young, but he has a little bit more experience. Hasn't played up front and centrally for us very often, but it's a big opportunity for him. He needs some goals. He hasn't scored many this season. I say Rashford's playing probably in truth. There's no way he can be 100% fit. So it's definitely a gamble, but I don't think Ollie has many options at this point. So
Yeah,
it's exciting
absolutely.
to see. It's exciting to see another youngster, coming through at United, getting opportunities. So yeah, hopefully he can take advantage of that. I would say the up front we definitely have goals there. My concern would be more the midfield and centre backs to some extent.
Yeah.
Midfield's been a real problem for us. What's your thoughts on that? How do you feel about the midfield lineup he's going for today?
Well, undoubtedly, I think it's probably going to be a McFred midfield. And I think we've struggled this season as a result of that midfield, and also whenever Matic seems to get a spot in the squad. Similarly, we don't perform well in the midfield, and we're not dominant in the midfield. So I feel really worried about the midfield going forward, and I think we need to make a signing, perhaps somebody like Declan Rice or Camavinga, just to come in there and shore up the midfield. But I think that problem is going to be solved if we can get Pogba on a new contract. And I know I've been stated as saying Pogba's overrated before, but it's when Pogba turns up, he really does turn up, and he makes our midfield look world class. I know Bruno's there to do all the work in the final third, but you need somebody to run the channels and be a true out and out box to box midfielder. And Pogba does that. He moves
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ball.
definitely.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
we we
He
de- we, we definitely notice when he's not playing, there's a
Yeah,
real lack
absolutely.
of lack of tempo in our midfield, lack of passing quality if we're truthful. And
Yeah,
obviously, Fred has some legs, but Matic is very slow. McTominay is not really a defensive player. It's just not a cohesive midfield without Pogba. He just lacks a little bit of spark, a little bit of quality. And yeah, we're very reliant on
absolutely.
Bruno.
Um, you know this, especially from past United teams. We've always had a player like Paul Pogba, whether it be Carrick, Scholes, just to move the ball from the midfield to the attack, and who can play that killer pass. And that's what we're lacking with all these injuries, because nobody can make the killer pass. Yeah, Fred once in a while can make an absolutely phenomenal pass, but they're too far and few between, and we're hemorrhaging points. We're losing points because we can't take a hold of a game in midfield. And I refer back to that Sheffield United game where we got absolutely played off the park, and most of the work was done in the midfield. Yeah, you had players like Lundstrom running the channels and picking the ball up, and winning tackles and winning challenges and aerial duels. And a player of that size winning aerial duels against people like Matic and McTominay and that shouldn't be happening. You're talking about a player who's 6 foot odd, so we should be dominating in the midfield. But it just seems like the lack of pace is what's hurting us. And when Pogba plays with Bruno, the cohesion and the rate and just the accuracy of the passing is it just turns up to 10, and it takes that side from being an average mid-table side to being a contending side. We're not quite at the stage yet where we can say we're title contending. But if the board back Ollie this season, we can be as good as Liverpool and as good as Man City. And the result against Man City just proves that. I mean, we've got enough in the tank to beat them, but we just need a little bit more, as they say, artillery and a bit more firepower up
Yeah,
front. And I think a few
yeah,
few signings would
that
definitely
is
help that.
that's absolutely spot on. But we don't know with our board really. It's unlikely they're going to give Ollie the level of backing you need. There's definitely an issue in that midfield. We're just not efficient enough all round. We give too many balls away. The pressure on the ball's not good enough. We don't cover enough space, and that invites pressure onto the defense, which then makes the defense look worse. And we can't get balls into the strikers, which makes the strikers look worse. I know Marshall's come in for a lot of criticism lately, rightly so, because his performances haven't been great apart from against Man City. But a lot of that is down to the service as well. And there's question marks over his attitude, but we've seen Rashford struggle, we've seen Bruno struggle, we've seen Greenwood struggle. Even Cavani at times has got one, maybe two chances a game. So I think there's an old saying in football that games are won and lost in midfield. I think that's truer than ever. And our midfield at the moment without Pogba is really lacking something, really lacking that sparkle.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that. Just looking at possible transfers we can make. It's rumored that we're going to have about 80 million to play with in the summer, and that's coming from credible journalists like Fabrizio and some other journalists in terms of United News. 80 million to me doesn't seem like a lot. And that seems like maybe we'll have a net spend, and it's dependent on if Pogba leaves. What do you think about the supposed transfer budget, Vic?
Well, the thing is, our transfer budget, well, our top net spend has been around 60 million ish in the last couple of windows, if not even less than that. Or so, I mean, 80 million. It probably sounds about right for this board. Say it does depend on Pogba whether he gets sold. There's also other players. I think Darlow's still our player. A couple of other sales we could generate. Lingard doing very well at West Ham, ironically enough. I mean, there could be 20 million there maybe. So we can definitely generate some additional funds. But I mean, if we lose Pogba in midfield, then yeah, we'll get some funds, maybe 50 million. But then it's another position that we have to fill. Truth of the matter
Yeah,
is,
absolutely.
I don't think 80 million is going to be enough. I mean, especially when you look at the fact that there's a lot of rumours that Cavani is going to leave, and then we're just going to leave a short up front as well. So we probably, in truth, need about five players to be seriously challenging, and 80 million is just not going to cut it. So I'd say we'll probably get one major signing and then probably a youngster or two. And it seems to be the policy that our board's going for at the moment.
Yeah, I recommended this on the stereo the other night because a viewer sent a question in asking who would you sign with 150 million, and I went a bit off the cuff and I said probably priority number one would be a centre back, and I said I'd like Varane, just a little bit of pace to partner with Harry Maguire. I also said a midfielder. I said Declan Rice. And then I went for a bit of an unorthodox option up front, a younger Bundesliga centre forward called Milit Rashica, who's currently not having the best season in the Bundesliga, uh, but his track record shows he's really consistently developing. And I think maybe it's a young player like that which would uh, apply a bit of competition to Martial, because it doesn't look like Cavani's going to be here next season. And with him being a centre forward, he can play a few different positions across the front three. So if anyone gets injured, we've got a bit of a hatchet player, a bit of a player like Antonio Valencia, can cover a few different positions, right back, right wing, and midfield. Uh, and it looks like he could be a genuine option, but I don't think United are looking at him just yet. And I think the preferred option for Ollie, coming out of Ollie's comments from the other day, would be Haaland. What do you think about chances of of Haaland, and what would you do with 150 million, including a net, if we were to sell players?
So Haaland, there's no doubt about it that he's a top player. He's a top player right now. He's probably going to get better because he's still young. He's played for Ollie before at Molde. I'm sure Ollie brought him through when he was 15 or 16. So he's got a lot of love for Ollie. Ollie definitely likes him, but yeah, and he almost joined last year. So he's definitely a player who would join United, but I think the chances of him coming to United is very low. I can't see our board, Ed Woodward, I can't see them paying the kind of money they'd need to pay to get him to sort of leave his contract now, because I know he's got a release clause that kicks in 2022. But to get him now, we'd probably be talking somewhere near 100 million.
Yeah,
And we also have that sketchy relationship with Mino Raiola, who sort of doesn't like Ed Woodward. Well, no one likes Ed Woodward, but yeah, he's got that
yeah,
very sketchy relationship with Ed Woodward. So he just a lot of things sort of working against us, and that's really unfortunate because, as I say, we've got the manager who Haaland loves. In theory, that should help you get the player. But yeah, all the other circumstances, I mean, I'd give it a 10-20% chance at the most of it happening. I think it'd be a stunning signing if somehow United actually pulled it out, especially if our budget is, as reported, 80 million. It's difficult to see that transfer happening. Yeah, 150 million is a bit closer to probably what we need. Um, Probably wouldn't be enough to get everything we need. Certainly not proven quality. But yeah, I'd agree with Declan Rice at 50 million. Wouldn't be a bad shout. I don't think West Ham would let him go for that. We'd probably have to use Lingard as a make weight. I say Lingard's probably going to fetch 20 million, especially in the form he's on. Maybe a little bit more. So we could probably negotiate something there to get Declan Rice.
yeah.
Alternative option would be,
Just
I'd
want to get
say, yeah,
your opinion on. I know you said that without 150 million, we can't do the deals we need to do. If you had to focus on just two positions, let's say 80 million could cover two positions. Who would you go for in turn if it was just 80 million and no net spend?
yeah. See, so with that kind of amount, we'd have to be going. There's no way you can get two or three proven players really, realistically, not at the level that we'd need for that money. Somebody like Basuma at Brighton is an alternative. Would probably be cheaper than Declan Rice. CDM slash box to box midfielder, a lot of quality, a lot of energy, a lot more pace. You possibly get him for about 30 million. So that would be one sort of all possible alternative. Our board seem really keen on Sancho still. And Dortmund have said that they're willing to lower the price. So that might be possible to get him for 50 to 70 million. And that would sort of give us a more senior player, a more experienced player in that right wing position, which would then free up Rashford, Marshall to play central striker, or perhaps Greenwood could play central striker. As we know, he's actually a striker playing out of position at the moment. So realistically, I could see those two signing something like that happening. We do need a centre back, but yeah, there's a huge shortage of quality centre backs in the world. I mean,
If we
ask
did go for
Liverpool.
Varane, if we did go for Varane, how much you think we'd have to part with to
See,
pull that deal off?
that very much depends on what he's got left on his contract. And I know Real Madrid are willing to let him go now. I think you'd still be looking at 50 million at least. He comes with a very high wage. I'm not sure if that Varane is the right option for us. He has the pace, but he's one of those players. He sort of has a lot of mistakes in him, and he recovers with his pace. But in the Premier League, I don't know how much you're going to get away with recovery pace being enough. Can be a little bit erratic. I don't know if it's the right sort of deal for us to go for. I get the impression that he wouldn't be that keen to come to England either. So because of the budget and the way things are structured, we might be better advised looking for a younger option. I know we've been linked with players like Benoit Badiashile. From what
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah,
of him, looks a
Monaco.
very good young, strong player. I mean, obviously he's very inexperienced, but if we're going to try and build a team, then why not buy a younger player? And there's also the lad from Spain, Pau Torres.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
know, I know we've been looking at him as an alternative. Might cost 40, 50 million. A lot more possible growth in him, whether he'd be strong enough. And then, of course, there's the other lad in Spain, Jules Koundé. Very good young defender. Maybe lacking a bit of height for the Premier League. Would cost a lot. So, I mean, we're going to be linked with a lot of players as per usual, as we are every year. And it's probably unlikely that we're going to get all of them. We'll do well to get two or three, especially of the quality we need. Um,
yeah.
on that,
Absolutely.
on sort of related note, sort of obviously Marshall's come in for a lot of criticism lately. He's had a poor season.
Yeah, yeah.
He's only got a handful of goals. Question marks over his attitude. If you got the opportunity to sell Marshall for say 50, 60 million, is that a deal you'd take, or do you feel that we should persist with him? He's obviously got a lot of talent.
Yeah, we had a viewer ask this question the other night, and I said it. I would do it if it was for Haaland, but other than Haaland, if it was for anyone else, absolutely not. The Marshall that played against Man City is undroppable. Is priceless. But Marshall's ceiling is determined on Marshall's attitude. Marshall could go anywhere with United, and he could do anything. But his attitude often lets him down, and his work rate often lets him down. So I'd say if it was for a deal for Haaland, yeah, absolutely, I can see Martial playing in Germany. But if it's for anyone else, no, no, I'd keep a hold of him if that was the case. But for anyone else, yeah, for
Yeah,
anyone else, no, sorry.
I sort of agree. Like, he's the kind of player that you wouldn't want to sell because of his potential talent is just so high. Is so few players who, when they're on it, can have that kind of close but ball control and just make defenders look powerless. But yeah, the attitude, the sort of mopey nature that he has, he's got to improve that. He's got to get back to that what he was doing last season. He scored what 20 something goals. He was sort of really good for us, really strong. We need him to get back to that ideally. I guess it's going to be one of those summers where we're going to have to see what unfolds. I mean, we've just appointed a new director from internally and a few things, so we'll see what happens. There's an Ollie contract being discussed, so it's going to be a
Yeah.
big summer for United. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Just back on the onto the West Ham game. What do you feel about West Ham this year? Obviously, they've got our former manager David Moyes, who most of us were glad to see the back of. But he seems to be really finding his stride at West Ham now. They're on a very strong season.
Um, it's mixed feelings about West Ham. They've had a fantastic season, no doubt about that. Scored the most goals they've ever scored, or something. I saw statistic, something like that. But I think it's a one season wonder for West Ham. And I don't think they're going to replicate it. But the form that Lingard has shown there has significantly increased his value. Because if he was, I think maybe people were touting him for 15 million before he joined. Now he's going to be worth closer to 27, maybe 30 million. He's showing real potential, and he's smack bang in the middle of his prime. So what I would personally do is exploit that situation to get the most value out of Lingard. And people might think this is a bit crude, but it's part of football. And our transfer business is reliant on if it's reliant on the net spend we have, then we must. It's imperative that we get the most maximum value out of Lingard and Diego Dallo, who's looking like he's going to be worth maybe 10 to 15 million also. When you add that money onto our transfer budget, it's closer to the 150 we need. So yeah, I would say yeah, Vic, I would sell him. But on the note of West Ham season, yeah, fantastic season so far, and they deserve everything they're getting so far. Because the kind of football they're playing is very attractive indeed.
Yeah, absolutely. With Lingard, it's sort of we've always known there's a little bit of a player in there. We've seen glimpses of a player, and I've always said about Lingard that he's an okay squad player for a top 14, but he's probably a top 8 player. And I think you're seeing that at West Ham. He's got a lot more room to grow. He's just applied himself really well, and on a personal level, I'm really happy for him. Never had no personal hate towards Lingard. He obviously been very frustrated with his performances often. He's had long periods just where he's just not affected games for us. But yeah, hopefully carries on doing well there. It entices West Ham to pay a bigger fee. And as I say, there might be something with that Rice or another player where we could do a deal, maybe work something
Yeah,
out that way.
absolutely.
It's
Look,
something we've got
if
to
if
exploit.
if we could do a deal with Declan Rice, um, that would be I mean that would be phenomenal. Because he's a player who will just fit our squad and our club like a glove. A natural born leader. I think he's already wearing the captain's armband for West Ham, if I'm not mistaken. So there's big attributes that you look for in a player: the ability to lead. And I've said it many times. I don't think Harry Maguire is a leader in our squad. I think Bruno's the real captain of our squad, and you might disagree with that, Vic. But
No, I agree. No, I agree. He looks like the most influential player in the team.
anyone else listening, drop a follow on our social media links. Everything that we've alluded to the show today is going to be down in the description below. And also check out our Spotify for an unedited version of this podcast, where there'll be a lot more content and a bigger show on there. So
Yeah,
thank you everyone for listening,
no problem,
and
Phil.
we'll catch you later, mate.